Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Riti Maharaj, and this is Narendra Maharaj. He's actually my father, so I had the opportunity to interview him at home. So first, I'd like to say thank you very much for taking the time off to have an interview with me. Um, so how are you today?
Good, good, good.
Okay, so let's get started.
Sure.
So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, well, as we established earlier, my name is Narendra Maharaj. I'm a Hindu priest as well. Um, I into music, mainly religious music now. Before I was involved with some form of Indian film music as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And so what are some of the type of instruments you usually play?
Well, I started off playing dholak. Well, initially percussions.
Mm-hmm.
Fine instruments like majira and tambourine and kawash and tal and things like that. But I started working my way up and started to play some dholak at some point in time. There's drums. Um, After which I started playing the harmonium. And playing harmonium, I just get to like keys a bit. So I branched off to some keyboards as well.
Okay. So what age did you start playing music?
I would say I started playing music at a young age, probably 13, 12, 13 around there, but not really played music, just fooled around with it a bit.
Okay.
Playing percussion in my dad's group and so on, of course, but harmonium and singing and that kind of thing started in my 20s, really.
Okay, so you took music seriously like around 20 years?
Yeah, should say
Okay.
that.
So I heard you said that your dad, he has a group, right? So your dad is a musician as well?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah. My father was involved for training classical singers in this country, very prominent classical singers, people like Hanif Mohammed, people like one who's alive right now that we all know well of, Rakesh Shankaran. He always looked up at my father as being a great guru, and my father would have trained him in lots of different fields within the classical styles.
Okay, good. So is there any other musical talents in your family except your dad?
Of course, my entire family is filled with musicians. My dad, all of his brothers were involved in music. My brother-in-law is the leader of the Kazana Orchestra. Both my nephew and niece, they are involved in the Kazana Orchestra as well. In fact, they love 80s music. They play a whole lot of hard rock music as well. They are doctors as well too. Within the family, all my brothers are singers as well, including one of my sisters. Yeah.
So your family has a lot of different genres. They would rock and roll, Indian music, film music.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So is there a point in your life where you realized that you were in love with music and that's what you wanted to do? Or
Well, actually, I started off doing music. It's funny, really, because I started off doing music because I had to. I didn't have a choice.
okay.
When my dad had sessions to go to, he would walk up to me and say, "Get ready, we're going out tonight for 6. You had to play dandal, we had to play majira, or some of the percussions." And even if I had plans, I had to just squash all my plans and just move with him. So I really didn't like music that much, but growing into it and interacting with my elder brothers and particularly my brother-in-law, I think he was instrumental in me learning a lot of English chords and stuff like that. And then having to see him play was a great inspiration for me. And then he started showing me a few things, and I did some work with that. And then gradually I started to like it a little bit more and more and more, until I would probably practice for hours and hours and hours because of just loving to do it and not thinking about it as a job then.
Right, okay. So, well, what are some other jobs have you done other than being a musician and a pundit?
Oh, I've done a lot of things. While I was going to school, I was involved in some form of construction, and for that reason I could put up bricks and plaster wall and repair stuff around the house and quite efficiently. I did some of that while I was going to school. Then I worked with TLM Company in part-times as well, which is in the drilling industry, where we carried things like chemical mud to drill rigs and so on. Having finished school, I started working at the Maritime Financial Group. I started off as an insurance agent, and I worked my way up to financial advisor there. I would have done stuff like gotten license for general insurance as well as life insurance. I would have gotten stuff like LUAT 101, 102, 103. I would have done things like FLMI, stuff like that. And then I left Maritime Financial Group and I joined Guardian Life of the Caribbean Limited. I remained there for a couple of years, and then I decided that I would swing across being this, that my love and passion for music really would have taken me to Canada, New York, Miami, etc. So.
Okay, so would you say you enjoy your previous job or you enjoy your job now?
Well, I enjoy everything I did so far, but I don't think anything could ever replace the love of playing music.
Yeah. And what makes you say that?
Because when you play, when you're playing music, you're in a different zone altogether. You know, you have this concentration, and you get deeply involved within the music. It's like a high. It's like,
right.
You know.
So those are the things that you love about your job, like the feeling of playing music?
Of course.
And is there anything that you don't like about your job right now?
Absolutely not. I love
okay,
everything
nothing.
about it, yeah.
Alright, so you'd say you're a hard worker?
I would say so, yeah. One of the things I do, you asked me earlier what I don't like about my job. One of the things I can tell you up front, I don't like COVID, because it kind of put a damper on all music right now.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, so what are some of your goals as a musician at this point?
Well, I've achieved most of them already. I wanted to produce some of my own original music, and I did that already. I wanted to start doing my own melody, my own lyrics, which is of course is Hindi.
Yeah.
It's a whole different language, and I think I've accomplished that already. So I don't think there's much more for me to want to accomplish, you know. And I've done my CDs, my YouTube channel, and so on, and basically that is what I would have wanted to achieve.
And how old are you now?
I'm 52.
And how old would you say when you wanted these goals for yourself?
Well, actually, I just started off playing music for the love of it, and I never really visioned myself as being a musician, really. But when I decided to want to really be a musician, and after, I should say around my 30s and so, I would have decided, I said, listen, I want to do some CDs and some, you know, get out on social media, etc. So around there.
Okay, good. So you've achieved all your goals. That's great. I remember you saying stuff about school. So where did you have your education from primary school go up?
Well, I attended the Avocat Vedic School, and I think, you know, asking me that, I think that is something that really inspired me as well, because in Avocat Vedic School they had a lot of singing, and if you could play an instrument, then you were favored by some of the teachers. So I think in those days we had a lot of lick sharing in school. So to get away from that, you play a little music on a Thursday and the teachers would like you. Right. So I started off playing some dholak, and that saved me a bit there. And when I attended the Siparia Junior Secondary School, and when I went there, I started off playing for Diwali programs and so on. There's a music class in that school, and I used to play piano and stuff for the Diwali programs and so on.
Okay.
I did the same as well too at the Faizabad Secondary too.
And that's the level of education you reached?
Correct.
Do you have any formal education of music, or just?
No, not really. I started off just picking and playing by ear, and later on I picked up a few stuff, like my brother-in-law I mentioned earlier, the leader of the Khazana Orchestra. He came one day and gave me a music manuscript with chord structures, and I started learning that. And then I picked up a thing or two along the way, meeting people like Rana Mohip, etc., and learning one or two ragas, and then going on Google and finding some for myself, and you know, started doing that, which led to what I am today.
Okay, so I heard you mention some famous names like Rana Mohip and stuff. Can you name some other international and local artists that you have performed with?
Yeah. I'm very much in constant communication, and I play together with the Tiente Gatons. That is one of the bands that is really popular in Trinidad. I would have had the opportunity to be playing some music in Ramayana and religious occasions with people like Inder Kanhai, Lily Ramcharan, Rakesh Yankaran. I would have done some music with Jairaj Singh. Jairaj spent some early times together with me. Of course, icon Budram Holas winning first prize harmonium playing in the National Chutney finals in Skinner Park so many years ago. And there have been many, many more. Of course, when Dexter Raghunandan was alive, one of the leading tabla players in our country, I had the opportunity to, together with him, play and meet with a lot of artists from India. My recent meeting with any artist from India was in New York City when Hariom Sharan would have died. I went there to attend. And being there, I couldn't sit easy on a chair, so I decided to fix the sound system.
Yeah.
I decided to do a few things, and then I was called up on stage by the likes of people like both Kinarji and Payal Singh, and I had the opportunity to play like backup harmonium for them, and something that I will always remember. In fact, I remember at my early ages, around 16, 17, I went to the first ever Diwali Nagar, which was held at Shagonas.
Yeah.
And going there, I remember my cousin, Pandit Vishnu, asking me, Nar, and you could play Majira? I was like, yeah, sure. He said, come. And I walked straight up on stage and sat down, and I froze for a while because I was sitting on that stage holding this Majira in my hands, looking at Hariom Sharan dead in his face. It was something like wow. Yeah.
Okay, so I heard you mention that you moved from more of the traditional side of playing music onto digital platform like YouTube. So how was that experience for you?
Well, it was quite fulfilling because a lot of people just keep sharing and liking my videos, and we always have good comments about it, and people always say, well, we need you to do some more.
Yeah.
And we like it because most of the times people they sing over people's song, but most of my songs are very original, so it's something that they would have never heard before, so they're asking for it more and more.
Okay. So what is one of the coolest experiences you have because of your job?
I should say was that one time when I was called on stage.
Yeah.
By Payal Singh and Kinarji. There are two musicians that I really, really look up to. They are way beyond anything that I could ever imagine myself being, And there it is. I had no idea that I was going to be playing that day. In fact, I bought a ticket and went there just to listen.
Yeah.
But the sound system was sounding so bad. I had to walk across and ask the guy, you think you could fix this? And he's like, you know anything about this? I say, of course. He said, could you help me? The sound engineer just left me.
So that's one of your other skills as well. You could actually do sound system.
Yeah.
Right.
So I did that, and I assisted him in leveling the sound system. And all the while, Kinarji was sitting and looking at me. Then this guy who's a very good singer asked me to play some backup harmonium for him. And every time, as a musician, you should leave room for another musician to play. But apparently he was scared to be on stage, so he asked me to accompany him. And the truth of the matter is he just wanted company, because he didn't give me a chance to play at all. But the little pieces I had the opportunity to do, I just kept filling. And every time I made a fill, Kinarji would just raise up his head and look at me like that. And when they had to close the program, he sat down and he called me. And I approached him and he said, would you accompany me? And I said, sure. So I picked up a Majira and I sat down, and he said, no, the harmonium. And I said, yes. And then when the moment came for music, he just looked at me and did like this, and I played. And I think that I played really well.
You impressed him?
Yes, I did, and I impressed myself too as well. I never knew I could have played like that.
So, what was one of your biggest accomplishments over the years of playing music?
I would say when I won the nationwide classical singing competition. Classical singing is a very old art form and a dying art form. And it's something that I wanted to keep alive, and I accidentally stumbled upon that competition, and I won. I got first
And how old
prize.
were you at that point in time?
23.
23. Okay, so what is your long-term plan for the future?
Musically, or
Yeah, musically.
yeah,
And even anything else, generally.
I'll just continue doing what I'm doing right now and continue playing my music. I know that it will not last for very long. I don't want to take my music to any other level because I don't see myself playing on a big stage and see myself flaunting with the music and that kind of thing. I am involved now in more spiritual and religious music, and I love playing that kind of music, and the satisfaction and enjoyment I would have achieved from that is a whole lot for me. So I think I would have reached the stage in my life where I'm nearing retirement. So I would want to enjoy my music
Right.
personally for myself, singing religious songs and praising the Lord along the way.
Great. So how often do you practice then?
Now it's would have slowed down quite a bit over the years, but before I used to practice like constantly, 4 hours, 5 hours per day. Sometimes when you measure it between the night and the day. Recently, I would have started back some practice. It's not been where I would have wanted it to be, but I'm sure in the near future I will be practicing a whole lot more. With COVID now, I'm practicing regularly every day. You know.
So you prefer practicing with yourself or like your fellow musicians?
Both. They have advantages as well as disadvantages.
Mm-hmm.
Before you practice with people, you must practice by yourself. So you have to get your stuff together
Right.
before you add stuff onto it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to sit by myself and work out chords and lyrics and make sure all that is in order.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll add my dholak player onto it, and then every other musician will just come in.
So what do you think would make a good musician in your opinion? And what do you think, how much traits do you think you have of that?
But I know I have some form of discipline. I'm not a wild musician. I don't play noisy to cover the vocal of any singer. So that's one of the secrets in being a musician. That as well as the kind of music I'm in. Music comes from the heart, never from the fingers or the head. And I think that that is the biggest downfall most musicians will have. If you play from the heart, then indeed you have achieved everything as being a musician.
So a lot of dedication and a lot of soul to it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So how often do you get employed?
Well, COVID, no, no employment. But before COVID, I would say 4 or 5 times for the week.
So basically like a full-time job.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So have you ever taught music?
To some level, yes. When we at the temples, we have music class encouraging young children to come and sing bhajans and play harmonium and stuff like that. Yes.
Okay. So which artists do you look for inspiration?
There are lots of artists. I love people like Anup Jalota, people like Hariom Sharan, people like of course Payal Singh, Kinarji, etc. There are many artists that I look up to.
What piece of advice have stuck with you that you've gotten from a fellow musician?
I think that advice would have come from senior maestro in the business, Kapil Gayadin. He's really the leader of the Tientek Gayatones Orchestra. And one of the things that he would have said that stick with me and it will never leave me, and I think that would have made me into a better musician. Kapil would have said, music is not noise. And that is one thing he always, he always say that music is not noise. Music was meant to be played and not, to irritate people.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what moment made you feel proud to be a musician?
I would say there are many moments, but like we go back to the spiritual field. Playing music in an environment where people will be conducting worship to God, and while that is happening and you have the opportunity to sing or to play music for a particular song which carries the meaning of what you are talking about at that moment, to me is one of the most fulfilling moments ever, when people could join together, the entire congregation. Say for example you're singing a line and it's a familiar line, and there is like roughly 150 people there, and you start hearing 150 people chorusing that same line.
Yeah.
and then the rhythm starts picking up a bit, and then they start to clap. It's really a great feeling to have that.
Okay, that's good. So, what are some positive comments you've gotten from your music that stuck with you?
Um, we have to be very mindful of that, because sometimes that can easily get to your head, and you can take it the wrong way. But I would have I would have listened to a lot of those where people sometimes say to me, well, we love your music, and we love that you don't play noisy music, and you're always within the raga, within the tone, within the melody, and things like that. And it's something that I don't make my music into as one would say, watered down.
Right.
No chutney version really, but sticking to authenticity and that kind of stuff.
And what are some negative comments you've gotten? Can you remember any?
Well, I don't think I would have gotten any of that. but I sometimes critique myself. I think that people sometimes, and that's something I'm mindful of. People always say good things to you in front of your face, and behind your back they always say the worst about you. But I know personally when I would have done a good job, as opposed to when I would have made some errors and things like that. And I know that I could probably work on correcting some of those. In fact, the only person who would have stepped in and gave me some kind of correction and help, as far as music is concerned, is one Primnat, my brother-in-law. He started off early by saying, you're playing the wrong chords.
Right.
Then and he started correcting it for me. And then Kapil Gayadin, who started to say, hey, wrong finger and that kind of stuff. And having gotten those tips from them, which I welcomed wholeheartedly, those ideas went a long way for me. So two people I'll never forget is Kapil and, of course, Primnat.
I remember you saying stuff about all the ragas and things. So I remember you also said that you didn't really have much musical background, but you actually have a lot of background, considering you don't have musical background when you said all those things. So you're actually very intelligent when it comes to music, and I believe that you've made a good musician. And thank you so much for your time. We finished this interview, and yeah.
Sure.